All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. The 2025 NHL playoffs are here. The Stanley Cup playoffs are now set. Everything is in order. We have 8 intriguing first round matchups, which will shrink to 4, which will shrink to 2, which will shrink to our Stanley Cup final. Let's start out west first with the first playoff series in which Winnipeg, St. Louis, waited until the last couple days to clinch a spot in the playoffs. And Winnipeg with the President's Cup, for winning the most games this year. Could there be another curse going on? Because, teams that typically have the most wins in the NHL typically don't, do the greatest. So, Winnipeg St. Louis will be the first round matchup. I do think Winnipeg, with a strong team that they've had, they will take care of business. Dallas, Colorado. Now, at the beginning of the year, I said the Colorado Avalanche would, be in position to take the Stanley Cup final, but that is not the case. I think now, yes, the Dallas Stars have lost 7 straight. Yes, there have been some injuries in the mid tier, but I still think the Stars will come out on top in this one. Vegas, Minnesota. Vegas has been a juggernaut for quite some time. Minnesota, pretty good. This one could go either way, but I do think at the end, I do think it could. Honestly, I think Minnesota, has a chance. I think Minnesota has a chance. Now, I'm going to tell you my Stanley Cup final predictions in a moment, but some people aren't going to like that, but it's okay. And then the Kings in Edmonton, yet again, the Edmonton Oilers and Los Angeles Kings face off in the playoffs for like the 6th year in a row or whatever. It's crazy. 6 years. 6 years straight of, 6 years straight. It's actually a bracket challenge, but I don't want to do that. On the eastern side, let me talk about the East anyway. On the eastern side of things, Toronto and Ottawa. It's an interesting one, a very, very interesting one. Mitch Marner leading the Maple Leafs, and on the other side of things, Tim Stützle, leading Ottawa. Ottawa, a lot of these teams were close to 100 points, or even had more than 100 points, which is crazy, And the East, there's no Rangers, there's no Islanders, there's no Penguins, so no Crosby, the Islanders are a mess. The Rangers are a mess because, just multiple things. But, the Panarin situation in which, there's been some allegations raised against him and, members of the, New York Rangers, group, which, of course, wait till the full, set things is going. But, of course, don't do disgusting things to women regardless. We got to keep that 100%. Don't be a weird, don't be a creep, don't be like that. The allegations are pretty damning right now, but it's okay. It's okay. They will get their justice, if need be. So Timmy will get his justice if need be, in the sense that, if those things are proven true, he should be thrown completely out the NHL. Go to jail. Please go to jail if you did those things. But again, I'm not as well versed, in the New York Rangers situation because, only been a couple days as already. The Lightning and the Panthers. Sam Reinhart, Sam Bennett, and and the rest of that Florida team, which was strong, but there have been some games where they have not been as strong. Tampa Bay with Nikita Kucherov, just been absolutely dynamic. And this Florida team has the potential to go places. They have the potential to go places. And I still think they have the potential to get all the way to the end. I still think they can do it. I think we're going to have a Toronto, Florida second round. And on the bottom of the bracket, the New Jersey Devils, the Carolina Hurricanes, the Montreal Canadiens, who, were able to sneak in despite Columbus doing so much, and the Washington Capitals, who also are one of the top teams in all of hockey, with one of the most, second most points actually, but still, of course, Ovechkin, the goals record has been broken. So, but I do think it'll be Washington, Carolina in the second round. Montreal is good, but I just think Washington will be too much. They have a dynamic group of scorers. And Carolina, has a defense that means a lot. They do a lot, and I do think it'll be a Washington, Florida Eastern Conference final. On the West, I think it'll be Dallas and Edmonton in the Western Conference final. And then my Stanley Cup Finals prediction is as follows here. My Stanley Cup Final prediction is as follows. It will be the Dallas Stars taking on the Florida Panthers. I think the Panthers have the materials needed to get back to the promised land. And my Stanley Cup champion, I'm picking my Stars. I'm picking the Stars, man. This is a team that deserves it. This is a team that deserves the way they've been playing, the way things have been going. I mean, there's just, you got to root for the Stars, right? I mean, if you don't want to, then that's okay. But I'm rooting for my Stars. Meanwhile, the PWHL, is going on an international break, and we just have some news that they are also. Let me change my banner up a little bit here. So, PWHL has been looking for expansion teams, and they have found one. They're Vancouver for, I don't know, maybe 2025, maybe 2026. I don't know. They're also considering Seattle right now. So with the way I think we're gonna get Seattle too, but PA is going through. So this is a interesting time, because that's very west, that's very west coasty, Vancouver, Seattle, that's very west coasty. So the thing is I think these moves could be pretty good, but again, it's just the fact that the travel is going to, be a lot. So I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll find out, how it all fares. As far as the expansion goes. Now, for the league itself, for the games left, every team has 3 games left. We have 27 games played for each team. Montreal is the only team that has clinched the playoff spot with 48 points. Toronto is behind them with 45, Boston with 40, Ottawa with 39, Minnesota with 38, New York with 33. Now, can New York catch up? Maybe, but it's unlikely. It comes down to Ottawa, Minnesota, and Boston for that last playoff, for those last 2 spots. Toronto is pretty much safely in unless something stupid happens, and the games over the next couple, weeks, which will ramp it back up on April the 26th and then go all the way to May the 4th. So, in 2 weeks, I'll be talking to you again, about the PWHL playoffs and what's been happening after the first round of the NHL playoffs so far. you know. And, it's been kind of a lot of muck, between, the hot potato between Minnesota, Ottawa, and Boston. It's been kind of a hot potato because Boston's had some great games, but then they lose some that don't make any sense. Ottawa, was able to climb back into things after having a slow start to the season, and Minnesota is dropping off a little bit. So, again, the PWHL continues to have the momentum on their side. I'm really hoping, again, that, we can get, some sort of actual TV deal that's not like, Nesson or, YouTube next year. I'm thinking like, hey, can we get games on, someplace like Ion or the CW or whatever? Just any place else, man, any place else. So, for me to you, what are your predictions for the Stanley Cup final? What are you thinking? Who do you think is going to be the Stanley Cup champ? What do you think? Because yeah, that's all I'm going to say. Go Stars.